lecturing Miss Meg.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Meg Pattison. Could you come up, Meg?
As an editor at Faber & Faber, Townshend helps to formulate their publishing policy, commissions new books, revises and edits manuscripts, and promotes his author's work on final publication.
Should be used to all this.
He's introduced several new writers to the public, and at a sales conference in September, he presented one of his latest books by Dr. Meg Pattison, who had treated his own drug addiction.
And first, I'd like to say it's great to see you all. You probably don't believe me, but it really is. I've been ensconced in a recording studio for the last 6 months, and it's nice to see some faces rather than tapes going round and round. We hope, sincerely, that Meg's book will consolidate the hope and the promise that her method, bioelectric medicine, promises. I mean, there's a promise in the book, that an optimistic promise that others, a wide range of individuals can benefit from the treatment which I benefited from and which many others have benefited from. And she treated my friend Eric Clapton. Is there anything you'd like to say about the book? Faber's are interesting because they're such an august publishing house with such a fabulous poetry backlist. And yet even Faber's are changing. Even Faber's are realising that people that read books these days read books for very different reasons than they used to. They don't read books for entertainment. They read books to be challenged, to create debate, to be informed, to be inspired.
It's not electric shock. If I can describe it, it's like the electric chair is electricity. It's like 100 aspirins, it kills you. 50 aspirins is like shock therapy. It's near enough. This is like 2 aspirins that cures your headache. It's a minute amount of electricity.
So the kind of books that I look for are books which fill that role, like for people like me.
10 days of treatment. It's totally different from shock therapy.
Painless.
And there's the witness.
I've gotta stop drinking. I've gotta stop drinking. I've gotta stop smoking. After the fire still burns. The heart goes on, but never learns. Memories moan, the soul always turns. After the fire still burns.
People say, you know, you just talk too much, you think too much, you say too much. I always think, yeah, but nobody really knows who I am or what I am or what is really motivating me, because I don't. People often feel embarrassed by my openness, or alternatively, you know, that if I try and explain it or talk about the consequences of it or talk about the genesis of it, that in some way that I'm taking away their enjoyment of it. So in that sense, it is a terrible flaw. But for me as a human being, I feel the same need to share what I feel as I have the same drive to do that. I feel that to be as artistic a process as writing a song. It's just not set to music, you know.
Well, what I'm working on now is this White City story. And it's about a man who, in his mind, has invented 2 new characters with whom he lives and through whom he experiences everything. One,
I wanted quite simply to make a music piece, a musical teleplay. I wanted to allow a song cycle to evolve at the same rate as a story, at the same speed as a story, as the same rate as a film script, for all the elements to evolve together, rather than the normal musical form, which is that you write a song and then somebody makes a video film of it afterwards.
one is an image, an idealized image of himself when he was a teenager. And the other is an idealized image of himself as he should be in late middle age, in his 40s in middle age. Both situations, fantasies, because as we see later in the story, he is actually confined to a wheelchair after a car crash, which has come about as a result of his moral collapse, his drinking, and his neglect of his family.
And in the end, I chose a very simple story about two estranged lovers living on the White City estate, which for a variety of reasons seemed to be the perfect setting for all of the feelings that I had. I just felt that a child that was brought up in a pub would have had certain experiences which did relate to mine. In other words, a mother and father running a pub with a young kid would spend a hell of a lot of time fussing about their customers and perhaps not enough time fussing about their children. I definitely felt this in my early childhood about my parents, that my father was always away on the road entertaining people, of which I was very proud and felt very involved. But at the same time, you know, I've sometimes wondered what's so important about them, you know. And so in that respect, Jim is similar, but not. I admire him in one way because he hasn't left. You see, he hasn't given up the ghost. I did. I gave up the ghost very early. Emotionally, I think I gave up the ghost when I was about 14. I thought, screw all this. I've got to get out. So Jim is dissimilar in that he stays.
Your famous friend in with you, I see. You could always try a bit of cleaning work round here, you know. Put a bit of money on your dough. Well, I'm only trying to help him.
My experience is pretty limited. You know, I've done a lot of the same thing. So when I come to, you know, get to grips with a story and make it fruity enough and real enough to speak truthfully and loudly, I have to stick to what I've actually experienced. And I did experience estrangement and then reconciliation, so.
I want to tell you a story. It's about a boy who lived in a pub and his mother ran the bar. And he was always being sent away to his granny's for months on end, you know, just so his mother could get rid of him.
Shut your fucking mouth! You just shut your fucking mouth! I will do for you! I will do for you!
What I'd like to do now is lay up a loop of sea and seagulls.
And he met a girl, and he never knew how good it could be to be wanted by somebody.